Alright guys, now we're going to look at completing the square. Completing the square is going to be used when we can't do that box method for factoring it out that I showed you later. So if we can't factor, we're going to complete the square. Now, here's the deal. In order to complete the square, my a has to be equal to 1. If your a is not 1, you're going to have to fix that up to make it 1. Divide everything out. Alright? We'll come to an example like that in a little bit. But for now, essentially, first up I made a1. So since a is 1, I'm going to go ahead and take the a off, understanding that the 1's there, not that big of a deal. Right? So I've got x squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. Now, I still can't factor this out, so I'm going to take the c and I'm going to kick it over. When I do that, this becomes x squared plus bx plus something is equal to negative c plus something. Right? I'm leaving the blanks in, because what I'm going to do, I'm going to put something on this side to make it a perfect square. This whole region is going to be a perfect square, so that way I can factor. But I'm going to add something onto this side. So what I do to one side, I've got to do to the other side. Okay? Now, the way that this works, I'm going to put a b over 2 and I'm going to square it. This is going to be a b over 2 and I'm going to square it. So once I square this, I'm going to turn this into a factored form, and I'm going to use this to add it up. Now, I'm going to go ahead and essentially throw in some numbers. I could go past this if I want to, but let's be honest about it, you probably don't even care. So with that said, we're going to go ahead. This is the general idea. We're making the a equal to 1. We're kicking the c to the other side, and then we're going to go b over 2 squared on both sides of the equation. From there, we're going to solve. All right? All right, cool. Now, first step, we go ahead, we make sure my a is 1. Notice my a is 1, my b is 6, my c is negative 2. I'm good to go. If I say x squared times negative 2, negative 2x squared, I can't factor this out because I'm not going to be able to find the c in order to get my, or not going to be able to match my b with the, to sum them up to get my 6x with factors of negative 2x squared. So with that said, I can't factor. Moving on, we're going to complete the square. So I'm going to kick my c out. So when I do that, I get x squared plus 6x plus something is equal to 2 plus something. Alright? Now from here, we're going to color code this up a little bit. B divided by 2, and we're going to square that. Well, what is our b? Our b is 6. So I'm going to make this a 6. 6 divided by 2 squared. 6 divided by 2 squared. Now from here, x squared plus 6x. 6 divided by 2 is 3. My next step is to square. Alright, now granted, you could go from 6½ squared to 9 if you want, but I did want to make sure you understand how I'm getting the 9, alright? So we divide the 6 by 2, then to get the 3, square the 3, we got the 9. Notice, I can factor this. You should already know how to factor it by now. If you don't know how to factor right now, I really recommend you to go ahead, pause the video now, flip on to the other video of factoring, so you can go ahead and see how this works. Alright, so here's x plus 3 is going to be squared is equal to 11. I need to isolate my x. So the first thing I'm going to do, just like with the square root method, we're going to take the square root of both sides. Still getting the x by itself, so I subtract 3 from both sides. Just like that. Now what I want you to understand essentially, we started off here, I got the a to 1, I made sure the a was 1, good to go. I notice I can't factor. So I kick my c out, I take my b divided by 2, square it on both sides, because I want to get this left side to be a perfect square. This is going to factor to a perfect square. We learned about factoring already, so if you don't know how to factor, it's going to suck to be you. So you need to go ahead, go back and get your factoring. Now earlier we talked about taking the square roots of both sides, using the square root method in order to solve for x. If you don't understand that, it's going to suck. So you need to go back and do that. Work this out, take the 3, subtract from both sides in order to isolate the x. Now we solve for x. Now, we're knowing that when x is these numbers, we can plug them back in and it's going to give us our 0. But I do want you to understand this is 2 solutions. This is x is equal to -3 plus the square root of 11 and -3 minus the square root of 11. So these are my 2 numbers of the solution. So this is the same thing as that. All right? And this is going to become more apparent once we start talking about graphing our quadratics. But for now, just understand up to this point. So take a second, make some notes, so on and so forth. Assistant, you got any more jokes?
What's Beethoven's favorite fruit?
What's Beethoven's favorite fruit?
Banana.
Wow! That's not bad. Oh my goodness. Okay. I'm going to have to retell that one to the 3rd grader. She's going to go to school and tell everybody. All right. Okay, here we go. I look at this, can I factor it? No, I can't factor it. So since I can't factor it, I'm going to go ahead and complete the square. Step 1, make sure my a is 1. So I'm looking at this, my a is not 1, my a is 2. So to fix that, I'm going to divide everything. I'm dividing everything by 2. Notice that each one of them is being divided by 2. Yes, I'm dividing the 0 by 2. I know I don't really have to, to show that up because it's going to 0. But I am putting it on there so, you have the understanding that what I did on one side, I'm still doing the other side to maintain the balance of the equation. Alright, so I got it this far. Now I'm kicking out my c. Alright? So I subtract 3 halves, subtract 3 halves. X squared minus 2x. Just like that. So I'm going to take my b. My b is -2. I'm going to divide that. -2 divided by 2 squared. -2 divided by 2 squared. Notice I put them on both sides of the equation. This becomes x squared minus 2x plus -1 squared x squared minus 2x plus -1 squared is equal to -3 halves minus 1 squared. All right, here we go. I'm going to factor this. I'm not going to go through the boxing or something. By now you should understand how to factor. So x minus 1 squared is equal to -1/2. I'm hoping by now you can go from -3 halves, +1. If not, You need to check out the fractions. I take the square root of both sides. I'm going to notice that I got a -1 in here. There's a -1. So I can choose to deal with this now, or I can deal with it later. I'm going to deal with it now. X minus 1 is equal to plus or minus I over radical 2. X minus 1 is equal to, now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to deal with my radical 2 in the denominator. So from here I'm going to multiply this by radical 2 over radical 2. We talked about rationaling denominators already in a previous video. If you don't understand what I'm talking about, you need to go back on that. So from here, I'm going to add 1 to both sides as I'm running out of board space. Right here. Now I've got it at this point. For me, myself, I'm okay with leaving it this way. In a lot of ways, I prefer it this way. However, you might have a teacher who likes to see it like this. Notice that 1 is essentially 2 over 2 for the common denominator. 2 over 2 plus I radical 2 over 2. So this would be x is equal to 2 plus I radical 2 over 2. And I don't know if you can see this too well, but I'm hoping so. If not, I can go ahead, take a second, and I'll rewrite it. But essentially, I just made a common denominator for the 1. So that way, I can add them together. Assistant, can you see this on the bottom? Is that okay?
Yeah, you see it.
Yeah? Okay. All right. Good to go. So I already kind of paused up a little bit. The idea, get the A to 1, kick out the C, work the C out, get rid of the square root by taking the radical, get rid of the square, taking out the square root, got the plus or minus. I chose to take the I out and rationalize the denominator before I brought the 1 over. I brought the 1 over. I was good with this. So essentially, I'm going to write this a little bigger. X, we said X was equal to 1 plus or minus I radical 2 over 2. So if I really wanted to, I would stop here personally, but if you wanted to, you could say X is 2 over 2 plus or minus I radical 2 over 2. Notice I have common denominators now, so I can rewrite that as X 2 plus or minus I radical 2 over 2. This answer would be acceptable for me. This example would be acceptable for me. This in between, yeah, you don't want to leave that there because this should be reduced, if nothing else. All right. So this would be a check, and I'd be cool with either one of these, whichever one you like. Till next time.